Welcome back. You're tuning into the Weekend Sports Breakfast this Sunday morning with Tony Cascarino and with me, Natalie Sawyer, with you until 9 o'clock. And we're returning to the stories making the back pages of the newspapers for you with the Times' James Restall, who is with us once again. And James, we've spoken a fair bit about England on the show already. Harry Kane's been chatting to the Mail on Sunday.
Yes, and he's talked about England's desire to win the World Cup, which I think that might be a little bit optimistic given what we've seen over the last few.
I thought you were going to say a bit obvious. It'd be more of a story if he said we don't want to win it.
No, I mean the thing is, my view on the last three performances is listening to you guys earlier as well. It has been a long old season, and these players are desperate for some physical and some mental rest. And I think probably I might buck the trend of a lot of people and say that I think Southgate has used this period well in getting a look at lots of players and trying to try things out ahead of the World Cup. We have short memories. The last Nations League campaign was pretty dismal as well, and we went. Well, I say we from as an Englishman. England got to the Euro final. I don't think losing the Euro final was a massive disappointment or an underachievement. I think for this team in its phase of development, I think it was incredible for them to be able to have that experience for the first time. So yes, I kind of think it's been a sort of an unnecessary exercise, these last three games that have had to be fulfilled.
Now, the Harry Kane interview in the Mail, he speaks a lot about a lot of issues regarding England, but also regarding Spurs, which might make Spurs fans feel a little bit better. Yes,
it's very interesting just to hear him in contrast to how he was talking or not talking last season. He's talking about his excitement of working with Conte. He's talking about the excitement of being back in the Champions League and looking forward to next season. And of course, this time last year, he was very much angling for that move to Manchester City. And it seems like all the kind of possible departure routes that were available last year seem to have closed now, particularly with Erling Haaland going to Manchester City. And with Spurs back in the Champions League, Spurs are actually a more attractive proposition than a number of clubs he could go to. You look at Manchester United. Why would you go to a rebuilding Manchester United when you have a world-class manager and Antonio Conte as your manager, and the club are clearly making moves in the transfer window? They've already signed Ivan Perisic, which looks like a very shrewd deal. There are reports in a number of the papers this morning that they're trying to bring in Richarlison from Everton, who you would imagine could be a kind of backup strength in depth footballer, which you're going to need when you're in the Champions League. They need to have depth and quality in depth as well. But this should be encouraging for Spurs fans, at least, that he will be fully committed to next season, because you think, Kaz, when he didn't really get going till about October last season, did he? And with a World Cup on the horizon, he needs to be in fit, firing form going into that tournament.
I believe he'll sign a new contract before Christmas at Spurs.
Well, that's the interest. That's the next thing, isn't it? Is whether Spurs can now get him to the negotiating table and whether he can sign a new deal.
Okay, from Harry Kane to another article in the Mail on Sunday about sport washing in football, which we've heard a lot in general in sports washing in sport, especially with this new Golf Live tournament. But what's the Mail on Sunday having to say about it?
It's very interesting. It's been very interesting watching the start of the Live Golf and kind of imagining, could this have been what the Super League was like? Had the Super League come to fruition, is this how it would have played out? And on a number of levels. And it was interesting in the Sunday Telegraph. Sam Wallace has written a piece saying how
the Mail on Sunday was Telegraph, isn't it?
And they've both covered it. But there's the piece in the Sunday Telegraph saying that you've got all the players having to kind of front up about it, or not front up about it, be asked about it. And you can kind of imagine that would have been the same with the footballers. And the interesting thing here is that the organisers have remained incredibly silent. Greg Norman, who's been the kind of front man of this, has been incredibly silent during these 3 days the tournament's been played, and it's the players who've been asked the question. Now, you might rightly argue the players should be questioned because they're taking hundreds of millions of dollars to play in this event. It's been reported, so therefore that comes with the paycheck, I think, to answer some questions about it.
Especially when it's your own choice to do
Indeed,
it.
exactly. It was interesting reading David Walsh in the Sunday Times this morning talking about actually the golf itself. It was a bit of a non-event, really. David made quite a good point about the kind of shotgun start, the way everyone starts on a different hole, and saying, could you imagine playing the Masters having to start on Amen Corner? You know, it's the whole point. You start from hole 1 and you go through to hole 18. Is that it's a level playing field for everyone else. But it almost feels like, you know, the golf itself was actually a bit of a sideshow. And I think looking back to how the Super League might have played out, you know, would the football have been a bit of a sideshow?
On that, James, it might develop into something so much more. Because I know, again, speaking to a few golfers, that they really like the idea of 54 holes, that extra day, because their life is so affected by 72, because they literally go from one tournament to the next. On a 6-7 day period, they just keep going and going. And I don't know if we're seeing the infancy of something far bigger, because as Patrick Reed obviously went over to the Live Tour this weekend, is who's next. Is not are there going to be more? It's going to be who is it going to be?
There's going to be a tipping point, I think, when there becomes too many players who have moved over, and it's for the established tours to respond now. You know, the PGA Tour have suspended all the players who played this weekend, but it's, you know, that unless they can fight back strongly against this, I think it also boils down to what the majors do, because if you stop these players playing in major tournaments, you know how much of that is a pull.
It feels like that's a really difficult one, because all different entities, aren't they?
The Sunday Sports Breakfast with Natalie Sawyer and Tony Cascarino. Sunday mornings from 6 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.